germinated and rose in the night. All the knowledge that you'll need I'll expose on this flight.
What's up with this paralysis?
You're frozen in light.
Where can you unfreeze me? And please be quick about telling me the reason why you come to seize me, he said.
I'm sure you heard of the machine, where we convene concerning its destruction, and we've chosen you to lead the team. Folks are going to die.
Here along with a bizarre creature.
Breaking news.
속보입니다. 정체를 알 수 없는 비행기들이 그 모습을 드러냈습니다.
한 네티즌이 올린 영상으로 SNS가 발칵 뒤집혔습니다. 뭐야 이거?
세상이 또 한 번 뒤집히겠군.
Who's in charge here? Where's the air support?
So, Gerard, I suspect you have a good reason for taking me away from my duties.
Your vodka can wait, my good Alexei. Come, stand here. You need to see this.
I know all about this, Gerard. We've all seen the tapes about the 100.
You've seen nothing. Dissecting a dead Zerg in a lab is one thing. Unleashing them on man is another. You must go into this with both eyes open. Once started, there is no going back. Are you prepared to go all the way with us, Alexei?
Yes. Yes, I am prepared to go all the way. My good Admiral.
Good. Good. I knew I could count on you, Alexei.
Admiral, the colonist base will be overrun in a matter of minutes. Shall we intervene?
Take us to orbit, Mr. Mountainstein. We've seen enough.
Sometimes I feel I've got to run away, I've got to get away from the pain you drive into the heart of me. The love we share seems to go nowhere, and I've lost my line, for I toss and turn, I can't sleep at night. Once I ran to you, now I run from you. This tainted love you've given.
Our only hope, our only peace is to understand it, to understand the why. Why is what separates us from them.
Number 10. Anonymous Says So. Back in June of 2017, global hacking collective Anonymous released a video that claimed NASA was going to be releasing concrete evidence supporting the evidence of aliens. The 12.5-minute video detailed the space organization's finding over the past year, including the discovery of Earth-like planets. Some sources, like Popular Science, believe Anonymous was speaking out of line, having misjudged comments made by NASA's Associate Administrator for the Science Mission Directorate, Thomas Zurbuchen. If you ask us, it sounds like someone paid Popular Science to denounce the claims. What's more convincing than that? Number 9. Dust organisms from the International Space Station. Pulled straight from the International Space Station in mid-2017, dust was found to have collected what was believed to be living organisms. Russian scientists attested that the living creatures could be a form of plankton or algae. The Russian space agency Roscosmos refuted any claims they originated from Earth, stating, "The comet dust that settled on the ISS surface may contain biogenic substance of extraterrestrial origin in its natural form," though they said it in Russian, which sounds more believable. Number 8. Planets found with water. One of the cornerstones of the creation of life is water. Earth has massive amounts of water, lending to the abundance of life. Other planets, such as Mars, have been found with traces of water, which lend to the belief that they're prime for extraterrestrial organisms. Along with Mars, a liquid ocean is said to have been found on Europa, a moon of Jupiter, and water traces have been discovered on Saturn's moons, Titan and Enceladus, and Venus. Number 7. Trace elements indicative of organic life. In 2003 and 2004, traces of sulfur and methane were discovered on Europa and Mars, respectively. The sulfur of Europa is believed to have connections to underground colonies of bacteria and is a byproduct and waste of the existence of those colonies. The methane found in Mars's atmosphere is thought to have a similar origin as a large quantity of methane in Earth's atmosphere, originating from the waste of bacteria and other living organisms. Number 6. The age of DNA. Studies of DNA and its ability to become more complex have led to the belief that DNA may actually be older than Earth itself. So, where did it come from? Former Associate Director of National Intelligence, Eric Hasseltine, has claimed, based on evidence procured by Dr. Alexei Sharov, that just the existence of DNA is proof that aliens are out there. In fact, according to Sharov's estimates, DNA is about 5 billion years older than Earth. Now that's a conundrum. If DNA is alien in origin, but common on Earth, is it still alien? Number 5. Military pilot sightings. Now let's be real. Either aliens exist, or the armed forces really need to screen their pilots better. As recently as December 20th, 2017, pilots have been touting UFO sightings. That specific sighting came from a U.S. Navy pilot, David Fravor, who was confident enough to retell his 2004 experience, describing the object as white and oblong. Fravor is just one of dozens of pilots that believe they were visited by otherworldly aircraft.
Welcome to Earth.
Number 4. The Madonna with St. Giovannino painting. Also known as the UFO painting, this classic 15th century art has a rather peculiar addition to it that doesn't seem to fit in with the antiquated setting. The focus of the painting is intended to be Madonna with an infant Jesus and St. John, but a nondescript man, seemingly shielding his eyes in the background, garner a bit more attention. Then you see what he may be shielding his eyes against, a strange object, one that someone may describe as unidentified and flying. Though some claim it's an illuminated cloud, that explanation isn't necessarily damaging to ancient proof of extraterrestrials. Number 3. Signals from space. In 2007, Duncan Lorimer from West Virginia University was scouring through historical records from the Parkes Radio Telescope in Australia when he happened upon an irregularity, a signal, nothing he and his colleagues had recognized as normal. At first, it was believed to be an anomaly, a hiccup that hadn't been repeated, and therefore inconsequential. But when Lorimer went public with the discovery, he found that similar signals had been recorded by the Arecibo Radio Telescope in Puerto Rico. The signal wasn't man-made, leading some to ponder who was responsible for it. Number 2, the Vatican knows. Edgar Mitchell, an Apollo 14 astronaut, had allegedly reached out to John Podesta, advisor to Presidents Clinton and Obama, hoping to speak with him on the topic of alien life. The email sent from Mitchell to Podesta was never publicly revealed until it was hacked in 2016. According to the emails, the topics Mitchell hoped to touch on were run-of-the-mill political conversations, like the Vatican's wealth of knowledge for the existence of alien life. Mitchell was dead set on believing that the Vatican was aware of extraterrestrial intelligence. Number 1, primitive organisms on Mars. In a report filed by NASA, a research team involving scientists from Johnson Space Center were said to have been working on an investigation on the claim of primitive life on Mars. The catalyst? The discovery of an ancient Martian rock that fell to Earth as a meteorite. According to the researchers, the rock was believed to contain organic molecules more than 3.6 billion years old. Biological activity and even the imprints of microscopic fossils were said to have been uncovered in the strange space rock. Well, that's proof enough for us. E.T. is out there, folks. E.T. is out there.
The Antikythera mechanism. This is considered by many scientists as the ancient Greek computer. At the beginning of the 20th century, divers off the Greek island came across this clock-like mechanism, which is thought to be at least 2,000 years old. The astonishing device was discovered in the wreckage of a cargo ship. It was very thin and made of bronze. It was mounted in a wooden frame and had more than 2,000 characters inscribed all over it. Though nearly 95% of these have been deciphered by experts, there has not been a publication of the full text of the inscription. Today it is believed that this instrument was a kind of mechanical analog computer used to calculate the movements of stars and planets in astronomy. It has been estimated that the Antikythera mechanism was built around 87 BC and was lost in 76 BC. No one has any idea about why it came to be on that ill-fated cargo ship. The ship was Roman, though the Antikythera mechanism was developed in Greece. The mystery of this item is the fact that ancient Greeks didn't have the technology to actually build such a device.
Perhaps one of the best-known mystery documents of all time, the Voynich manuscript, is a codex or book which is written in an almost alien code that nobody has yet been able to decipher. First seen in 1912, it was named after its owner, Wilfrid Voynich. Carbon dating of the document reveals that it was made during the 15th century. Flipping just a few pages of the manuscript reveals how otherworldly its contents are. Weird zodiac symbols, depictions of nude women doing all sorts of things, and otherworldly plants and animals are illustrated within. It's so unusual that the language used to write the document itself is yet to be understood. Random made-up gibberish, perhaps? Quite unlikely, as it has been found to have the same tempo, frequency, and cadence as a typical human language. Some people even claim that it's simply a hoax by the original author, or even by Voynich himself, and that it was never meant to have any decipherable meaning in the first place. Still, its intricate and detailed writings and depictions, along with carbon dating findings, and its material analysis cut this idea quite short. As to who wrote the document and why, that too is an entirely different mystery of its own.
Some scholars suggest that this is one of the first languages that humanity has ever created. Others believe that the book is a condensed information about the biology of another planet left by extraterrestrial beings. The manuscript has been studied by many professional and amateur cryptographers, including American and British codebreakers from both World War I and World War II. No one has yet succeeded in deciphering the text, and it has become a famous case in the history of cryptography.
That power, it's not completely awful.
You have no idea how much you're scaring me right now.
Eddie, cooperate. And you just might survive.
Look around at the world. What do you see? A planet on the brink of collapse. Human beings are disposable. But man and symbiote combined. This is a new race, a new species. A higher life form.
What do you want from me? You'll find out. I'm so sorry. We cannot just hurt people. Look into my eyes, Eddie. The way I see it. We can do whatever we want. Do we have a deal? Eyes, lungs, pancreas. So many snacks, so little time.
On the first day, God said, "Let there be light."
Likes to work on a rainbow. Plum is good and Plum is great. He's shark fishing with clowns as bait. Plum, that's what they say. He eats rainbows each and every day. He's Plum.
I'm sure that the expression dark matter is familiar to each of you. However, very few people actually understand what exactly is hidden beneath this seemingly simple name. And I'm not just talking about us mere mortals. Scientists also have very little idea what dark matter is. In the US and Europe today, billions of dollars are being spent on vast machines and complex equipment that aim to help us discover the nature of this mysterious stuff. So if we don't know what dark matter is, then how do we know where to find it? First, before we even begin to speak about it, it'll be necessary to at least understand where we learned about this mysterious matter in the first place. I'll give you a very simple explanation. Here we have a satellite. It's in orbit around the Earth. If we significantly increase its speed, then the Earth's gravity will no longer be able to keep it in orbit, and this big hunk of technology will fly out into open space. If we are interested in numbers, the maximum speed of this orbit around the Earth is 11 kilometers per second. If our planet were 100 times heavier, then the maximum speed would be 10 times faster. That is, the heavier an object is, the faster other bodies can rotate around it. This is how astronomers measure the masses of distant galaxies and clusters of galaxies. Austrian-American astronomer Fritz Zwicky was investigating such phenomena back in the 1930s. Investigating the velocities of single galaxies in clusters, he found that, on average, they move about 100 times faster than expected. It seems there was some sort of additional hidden mass there, besides the luminous mass that we could see. It made the galaxies move much faster than they should have. It was then that Zwicky first introduced the term dark matter to refer to this bizarre and perplexing mass. The science of space was really just beginning to emerge in the 1930s. Unfortunately, this meant that very few people paid due attention to this unexplained phenomenon. In their view, there was little of consequence that could possibly be there. Later, in 1970, two astronomers, Vera Rubin and Kent Ford, examined in more detail the rotational speeds of stars in the Andromeda Galaxy. Their results changed our view of modern astrophysics forever. The stars in the Andromeda Galaxy were rotating much too fast to be explained. This meant that there was still some mass besides the stars that we, for some mysterious reason, could not see in the Andromeda Galaxy. And judging by the rotational speed of the stars, this mass needed to be several times more than the mass of all the stars in the galaxy.
A flyby of Earth. That is to say that they come as close as possible without being caught up in the gravity. This can give a gravity slingshot effect which greatly increases their velocity. But the change in speed isn't always predictable. There's been multiple accounts of variable increases or decreases from the calculated speed, and we just don't know why it happens, or even why it doesn't happen every time. One theory suggests that there's a large halo of dark matter around the Earth, which would be a huge discovery since as far as we know, dark matter should only affect large-scale objects.
Breathable oxygen molecules found in space. After 230 years after the discovery of oxygen gas, the life-giving molecule has ever been found in deep space, according to NASA. Although oxygen is the third most abundant element in the universe, it had never been seen before in space. Not until its discovery in 2011 by the Herschel telescope.
God called the light day and the darkness night.
Blood is the most colloidal substance, and that has something to do with how it's red. That red matter is the most colloidal, which means solid and liquid exist in optimal concentrations in red liquids. The degree of colloidalness decreases leftwards along the Midgard line, the colors of the rainbow. This is so important and gives rise to the fundamental theories of matter, which will help us understand the evolution of plants and animals.
What is the blob? It was first seen in the original movie from 1958. It crashed on Earth while encased in a meteorite. When it broke apart, a small gel substance was seen. It then attaches itself to an old man who is in the area investigating the crash. As the man cannot get it off, it eventually consumes him. The blob later finds more victims in a hospital, and with each person it eats, it grows in size and its color turns more red. It goes through the town consuming anyone while being more aggressive, and eventually grows to a size where it can cover cars and diners. Now in all the movies the blob was in, it was defeated by being frozen, as that was its only weakness. Now as for what the blob is, it was listed as being some type of amoeba which has the ability to alter its shape. It was acidic in nature, which allows it to break down flesh, bone, and other materials, so it can consume almost anything. If it has any relation to Earth-like amoebas, then its method of moving around would be by pushing bulges of cytoplasm from within. There are parts of the amoeba where microfilaments coordinate together to push the plasma membrane that surrounds a cell. So basically, it's some form of bacteria. Now since the blob came from outer space, its inner cells are probably more advanced since it's able to hold onto objects and pull them in to be consumed by the larger portion of the blob. Now, some news articles have said the Blob movie was inspired by a real story that took place in 1950 in Philadelphia. Two officers came across something floating down from the sky. When it landed, they found something that was 6 feet in diameter, purple in color, and it gave off a mist. The officers examined it for about 25 minutes, but later on, the object disintegrated.
Creep spread gives two major advantages: speed and vision. Speed is the more obvious of the two advantages. Zerg ground units move faster on creep. This even affects Zerg units that are moving while burrowed under creep. It doesn't matter whose creep it is, all Zerg ground units get the speed buff. The most common speed boost for a Zerg unit is 1.3. However, floating units like the drone gain no benefit from creep at all. The other exceptions are the Locust that gets a 1.4 times speed increase, the Spine and Spore Crawler which get a 2.5 times speed increase, and the Queen which gets a 2.7 times speed increase. That's right, the Queen is more reliant on the creep for speed than so-called static defense. Creep will allow you to defend better by giving your army a speed boost to get to an enemy drop location or an enemy attack faster. It will also give your units a huge advantage in battle. Closing the distance with Banelings and getting surrounds with Zerglings is significantly easier when executed on creep. It also makes your Zergling run-bys and counterattacks more effective by getting them in and out faster. Remember that the speed boost comes from the creep itself, so even if the creep tumor gets killed, Zerg ground units will continue to get a speed boost as they run over the receding creep.
If you look beyond humans, if you look further beyond animals, you see the trees and plants. These are the first principles which play a role in the evolution of what seem to be the more complex life forms. Annoying Orange by Danebo helped quite a lot to derive this. So the first premise is, similar to animals, plants are also life forms. Even plants are evolving or devolving based on the quality of the animals around them, just how animals are evolving or devolving based on the quality of the plants around them. When we talk about fruits and vegetables as of their personalities, and of a rivalry between mango and apple for example, we are actually talking about the mango associated population, the mango planters and the apple associated population, and the rivalry between the two. So it's a bit like shorthand if we talk about the personalities of the fruits, because these are the things that have a direct impact on the personalities of the animals. Around the Himalayas there are two sides. One is Pakistan, Bangladesh and North Indian elites, in whose flags the color green features a lot, and the other side is yellow, which is like the Chinese elites, the Japanese, the so-called yellow people. So one side is green, the universal association of all green leafy vegetables and apples and pears and the like, and the other side is yellow. The interesting thing is that it's a transition. If you go from green, the next color you get is yellow. Yellow plant material is more colloidal than the green. If the green plant material was optimized for photosynthesis, then the rise of the yellow plant material was accompanied by some kind of specialization reflected in the physical aspect of color and an increase in colloidalness. It was in the case of the lemon. We shall now study number sets and ad hoc sets in society. Depeche Mode has a song critical of John the Revelator, where this John character is linked to the Mango Cube number of 7 into 7 into 7. And to take a more tangible example, there is a mention of 7 angels in the same song, which is similar to the Hindu concept of Saptarishi, with 7 supreme sages who control the fate of the world. At different times, different sets of 7 people with the necessary birthrights would staff the offices of the 7 angels. We need to think of such sets of people in order to understand the concept of number set, like 7 villains, like the 7 soldiers or 7 clowns in an unknown movie. These number sets involve birthrights and duties, along with ad hoc sets, which are purpose-based and not number-based. Number sets can be seen as the atomic parts or building blocks of the world order. The 7 number set is possibly the most famous and widespread, if indeed not always dominant, number set. There's another 8. These 8 people are meant to check John the Revelator style mischief on part of the 7 angels. The 8th becomes Big Brother to the 7 angels, appointed by mankind, and thus tends to check runaway mango fundamentalism.
We want information. 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 Who are you? The new number 2. Who is number 1? You are number 6. I am not a number. I am a free man.
In Judaism, we see the system of Kabbalah, which talks a lot about the numbers. Over the course of my research in comparative mythology, I learned a lot about the numbers. They denote factions or sets of people. Let's just see what I mean. Say for example, like Monday, the first day of the week. Monday, Mandos, like Mandarin. From the 7 of annoying orange, the first, the orange, corresponds to the number 1. The sweetest son of the Citric dynasty, the Jade Emperor, the first, the most important ruler of the Himalayan region.
Philippe Rouja is a marine archaeologist and custodian of Bermuda's hundreds of wrecks.
The paradox of Bermuda is that you've got this amazing, civilized, stunning, beautiful island, and yet surrounded by over 300 shipwrecks.
While inspecting the sunken vessels, Rouja regularly experiences a strange and dangerous phenomenon. All his compasses malfunction.
This is the place where, when we go diving, we have to be really careful. In this particular area, it's one of those spots where we cannot rely on our instruments at all. This is a place where, depending on certain zones, in fact, we're right over one of them now, this area in particular, our compasses will all show different readings. And this isn't the only spot that this happens. I can totally relate to that experience of looking down at your instruments and going, that doesn't feel right, and that one's not even showing the same as that one.
Spook Hill is located in Lake Wales, Florida. This is a mysterious hill where there's apparently no gravity at all. This place is so popular for the city's inhabitants that there is a sign there explaining the whole story of the hill and what you should do if you want to experience the phenomenon. Visitors must park their cars in a white line painted on the road, put it in neutral, and let it go up the hill instead of down with no help at all. The legend behind Spook Hill's effect dates from many years ago, when an indigenous ethnicity from Lake Wales called the Seminoles were frightened by a crocodile. The tribal leader decided to face the crocodile to protect his people. They had a great battle and the tribe's chieftain won. There are people who believe the legend, which says that the effect of the cars going up the hill with no explanation is due to the crocodile looking for revenge. In the south of the Dominican Republic, we can find another mystery place where gravity is apparently gone. This is Barajona's Magnetic Pole, a rural road section located 8 kilometers from the Polo community, 700 meters away from the Bajaruco range. It's normal to think that things would normally roll down any slope, but in this place, we can see how a vehicle in a neutral position rolls up with no kind of manipulation at all. What kind of explanation would you give to this phenomenon? The same thing happens when you throw a ball or any rounded object. Everything moves up the slope instead of down. People go daily to see this steep road to live this inexplicable experience.
The Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle, is a notorious area that lies in the North Atlantic Ocean between Florida, Puerto Rico, and the island of Bermuda. If you draw a line connecting these 3 points, you get a huge triangle. In fact, it's estimated to be a whopping 500,000 square miles in size. There are few people who haven't heard of this mysterious place and all the horrible secrets hidden in its depths. It both terrifies and simultaneously mesmerizes people all over the world with its spooky statistics. 300 ships that vanished without a trace, 75 aircraft that simply vanished out of thin air, and over 1,000 victims who never made it home to their families. With each passing year, we see different theories attempting to explain the phenomenon of the Devil's Triangle. But we still don't know for sure what exactly this place is. Some say it's cursed. Others say it's something paranormal. And there are those who believe it's got something to do with aliens. Whatever it is, not even scientists fully understand the cause of all the tragedies that unfold in the Bermuda Triangle. Here are 5 of the area's most mysterious disappearances, some of them centuries old, some eerily recent. Watch and draw your own conclusions. The Mary Celeste. Believe it or not, the Bermuda Triangle already started gaining fame in the times of Christopher Columbus. During his voyage to the New World, the explorer noticed pillars of fire falling from the sky and crashing into the ocean near this arcane area. At that time, there wasn't any developed system of communication, so people didn't find out about the triangle until the 20th century. But even before that, the mysterious place was claiming victims on a regular basis. One of the most well-known disappearances was that of an American merchant ship called the Mary Celeste. The vehicle set sail on November 7, 1872, with the ship's captain, Benjamin Briggs, along with his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and a crew of 7 on board. They were heading from New York to Genoa, Italy, with a precious cargo of 1,700 barrels of raw alcohol. Less than a month after their journey began, and just days after the ship's last recorded entry of November 25th, a British vessel called the De Grazia happened to come upon the Mary Celeste floating under a partial sail. Everything looked normal and intact, except for one thing. There wasn't a soul on board the ship, and the lifeboat was missing. The only thing that seemed out of the ordinary was a single sword lying on the deck. Before you put it down to a pirate attack, you're about to find out why it couldn't have been. All of the crew's belongings, a 6-month supply of food, as well as the transported alcohol, were untouched. Any other theories, such as an undersea earthquake, a giant squid attack, or a natural disaster, can be ruled out too, since the vessel wasn't damaged whatsoever. It was a clear day. The ship was in perfect working order. So why would people leave it and never come back? Whatever the reason, neither the crew nor the lifeboat was ever found. While this mystery doesn't have a direct proven connection to the Bermuda Triangle, some researchers believe that these innocent lives were claimed by the cursed place. The Ellen Austin's curious finding. In 1881, the 210-foot-long American schooner Ellen Austin was sailing from New York to London when the crew spotted an unidentified ship drifting in the Sargasso Sea, which is on the northern edge of the Bermuda Triangle. Something seemed off about the ship, as if there wasn't anyone on board. So Captain Baker of the Ellen Austin decided to observe the derelict ship for a couple of days to make sure that it wasn't a trap. Once that time passed, he ordered his crew to board the abandoned vessel. They saw that everything was intact. The shipment was well packed, but there was, indeed, nobody on board. So Captain Baker decided to put his best men on the mysterious ship and tow it back to New York with him. At first, the two ships sailed side by side on beautiful calm waters. But when a strong storm came out of nowhere 2 days later and separated them, the Ellen Austin lost track of the abandoned ship. Once the storm calmed down a bit after a few days, Captain Baker found the derelict ship yet again drifting aimlessly at sea. Upon catching up to the vessel and checking it out, the captain was shocked by what he found. The ship was in the same perfect condition as before, but without a single soul on board. This part of the story has been confirmed, but there's more to it. Some people believe that Captain Baker made one more attempt to bring the ship back to land, but after try number 2 ended in the same exact way, the Ellen Austin just left the seemingly cursed vessel alone. According to another version, the derelict ship was spotted once again, but this time with a crew different from the one left by Captain Baker. Nobody but the Devil's Triangle itself really knows the truth. The USS Cyclops. In the entire history of the U.S. Navy, there hasn't been a larger single accident loss of life than the tragedy that happened to a huge fuel ship called the USS Cyclops in March 1918. The ship was supposed to deliver 10,800 tons of manganese ore from Brazil to Baltimore, which means it had to go right through the heart of the beast. The ship set off on a nice day, and the only message ever received from the crew stated that they weren't having any troubles whatsoever. And then, the ship, with its 309 people on board, simply vanished. The captain of the Cyclops never sent a distress signal or anything like that. Just poof, gone. Even after the area had been thoroughly searched, no traces of the vehicle were found. the investigation never did discover the cause of the disappearance. The Grumman Cougar Jet. One of the more recent Bermuda mysteries is the disappearance of a Grumman Cougar Jet. It was 1991, at around Halloween time. Piloted by John Verde and his co-pilot Paul Lucaris, the jet was flying over the Gulf of Mexico, heading for Tallahassee. The weather wasn't ideal, a bit overcast with scattered storms. So, in order to get up above the turbulent clouds, Verde asked the flight center for permission to increase the altitude. It was granted, so the pilot started to do just that. As the jet was ascending into some sunlight and out of the cloud cover, it vanished from the radar. The controllers couldn't believe their eyes. In the spot where they had just seen a plane literally moments ago, there was now only an empty space. They tried to call the pilots, but there was no answer. And yet, again, there were no distress signals or maydays or anything before the disappearance. The plane wasn't falling into the ocean. In fact, it was quite the opposite. It was gaining altitude. It seemed to just fade away as it was ascending to the necessary height. No trace of it has ever been found. The MU-2B. And now for the most recent. On May 15, 2017, a twin-engine plane took off to deliver Skylight Group founder and CEO Jennifer Blumen, along with her two little sons, just 3 and 4 years old, to Titusville, Florida. Piloted by Nathan Ulrich, the plane left Puerto Rico at 11:30 a.m. The weather was good, the flight was going smooth as butter, and nothing could have predicted the tragedy. But when the plane reached an altitude of 24,000 feet, it just vanished from the radar. Miami traffic controllers also lost radio contact with the aircraft. The next day, 15 miles to the east of Eleuthera Island in the Bahamas, the U.S. Coast Guard spotted some debris, which they believed were the remains of the missing plane. However, neither the passengers nor the pilot has ever been found. There have been so many more disappearances over the years. In 1941, the USS Proteus and USS Nereus went missing on the same route their sister ship, the USS Cyclops, had taken several decades before. In 1945, Flight 19 disappeared over the area of the Bermuda Triangle, and one of the rescue aircrafts sent to search for that missing plane also never came back. There are countless more stories like these, none of which have a concrete explanation.
Here's just some of the shocking creatures that inhabit the water in this area. Dragonfish. These creatures live at the staggering depth of 5,000 to 7,000 feet. This fish looks quite terrifying, with its black coloring and the light it produces on its own. Unlike other deep-water inhabitants, dragonfish produces light in the infrared range, while the blue and green range is what other fish stick to. This ability gives the dragonfish a great advantage. It provides itself with light that other species just can't perceive. If you want to avoid nightmares for the rest of your life, don't scare the dragonfish. In case of danger, the photophores under its eyes and on the barbels light up, and the creature starts to look truly ghostly. Vampire squid. This squid has the largest eyes in terms of proportion in the world and is born to live in the depth. Despite what its name states, the creature isn't known to suck blood. Actually, half of its tentacles don't even have any suckers. But what the vampire squid has is bright red eyes and crimson cloak that looks like webbing. At the same time, If the lighting changes, their eyes may seem blue while their body will become black. These animals are also covered with photophores, which distract predators and lure prey. But what is the hardest fact to accept about the vampire squid is that in case of a threat, these creatures can invert their skin, exposing their spines. Gulper eel. This is a strange-looking fish that resembles any other eel. It lives in the deep waters of the ocean. Its other names are the pelican eel and the umbrella mouth gulper, and there's a reason behind that. The mouth of the gulper eel is loosely hinged, which makes it extremely wide and big. In fact, the length of the jaw of the eel reaches 1/4 of the length of their body. So in proportion to the body, the mouth looks enormous. The pouch-like structure of the lower jaw allows the eel to deposit its prey there. What's more, even the stomach of the eel can stretch so much that the creature can hold there a huge amount of food. Despite being the owner of such an enormous mouth, the gulper eel has tiny teeth, and this means that it isn't supposed to prey on large animals. This may seem weird. If you have such a huge mouth, why does your diet include only seaweed, fish, and the occasional octopus or squid? The thing is, the mouth of the eel serves as a net when it gets into a big group of small fish and shrimp. The Bermuda Triangle hosts some really lovely inhabitants, doesn't it? But wait, the best is yet to come. Goblin shark. Assuming that some sharks may seem pretty to you, the goblin shark will never be one of them. In fact, this is for sure one of the ugliest sharks you will ever see. Sometimes people call it a living fossil, as this shark is the only remaining member of a family which has otherwise died out. The goblin shark reaches 13 feet in size and is also called the vampire shark due to the fact that it avoids light at all costs. Due to this feature, you can see the shark in its natural habitat only if you go as deep as 890 to 4,300 feet. What's more, the animal has some peculiarities that distinguish it from other sea creatures. For example, its jaw. You will notice nothing strange at first glance, but as soon as the prey appears in the vicinity, the jaw of the shark will elongate and grab it. As soon as the victim gets to the shark's mouth, the jaw returns to place, and a set of small but extremely sharp teeth starts to grind everything that is inside. This may scare the daylights out of you, but sharks need this as they are clumsy and slow and have to have an advantage over their prey. Eunice afroditois. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but fortunately the creature is also known as a bobbit worm. And it's terrifying. The worm buries itself in the seafloor with just a fraction of its body exposed. The depth at which it feels comfortable is from 32 to 131 feet. The creature has 5 antennae it uses to sense the prey, other worms and fish that can be 7 times bigger than the worm itself. Pharynx, a complex feeding apparatus that helps the bobbit worm catch the prey, can turn inside out, not unlike glove fingers. It has strong and extremely sharp mandibles, which can easily cut the prey in half due to the strength and speed of the worm's attack. Once the prey is secured in its jaws, the creature injects it with poison and shoots back to the burrow to feast. There's no information if the bobbit worm can kill a human, but if you meet it, A nasty bite can be guaranteed. The most disturbing thing about them is their size. An average worm reaches 3 feet, with some specimen growing up to 10 feet long, consisting of more than 600 segments and weighing as much as 15 ounces. Terrifying indeed. However, these are just some of the creatures that lurk in the depths of the Bermuda Triangle. Who knows what other unbelievable horror movie beasts we can meet there?
Now, since India is the smaller part and above the Himalayas is the bigger landmass, of course the first would be more powerful above the Himalayas. That's where 2 comes into the picture. Below the Himalayas is his friend Pear, representative of the green faction. He becomes the second. As you saw in the Froyolo episode, it's like orange and then Pear says V. So Pear, is the second of the 7. And the 2 make up the number set of 2. Pear is from the green side and yet is a fruit. And that's why Tuesday. Tues comes from Divas, which means day in Hindi, as does Deus or God or Deva. The Indian kind of god, so south of the Himalayas, you find Pear.
So what brought you all the way out here, Artanis?
Zeratul believed that the artifact in your possession, the Keystone, he called it, could guide us to the Xel'Naga.
Where's Zeratul now?
The Dark Prelate fell on Ire. His last hope was that I would continue his quest and find a way to stop Amon.
Damn it. Always knew there was only one way this quest of his was gonna end.
His loss is great. I know you called him friend.
I went through hell to get that artifact because of his damned fool prophecies. Lost a lot of good men. If he wanted you to have it, take it. It's yours.
On the second day, God said, "Let there be a space to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth." God called the space sky.
Animal rain phenomenon. The origins of this bizarre animal rain phenomenon have evolved throughout history. The first reported phenomenon occurred in the 1st century AD when Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder documented fish and frogs raining from the sky. One of the most well-known examples of this rain phenomenon took place in Louisiana in 1947, when fish started to rain from the sky, averaging 1 fish per square yard. This frightening rain phenomenon also has extended to even more alarming creatures raining from the sky, such as worms and snakes. No one knows for sure how the clouds become filled with small animals which end up raining down in different parts of the world. Some suggest that sudden gusts of winds, tornadoes, and waterspouts suck these animals into the air. That sounds a little far-fetched, and really, no one knows why this happens.
It wasn't just water that fell from the sky during recent rainfall in Mexico. Authorities reported Tuesday that the town of Tampico also witnessed small fish falling from the sky. Newsweek quotes area's civil defense agency as saying, "Curious case in Tampico where there was a slight rain that included small fish that literally fell from the sky."
On the third day, God said, "Let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place, so dry ground may appear." God called the dry ground land and the waters seas.
The theory that continents might have drifted was first put forward by Abraham Ortelius in 1596, but it wasn't until the 1960s that the theory of plate tectonics became the established gospel. And according to that theory, this is how Earth looked in the ancient past. But as Herndon says, try to answer the question, what's wrong with plate tectonics theory, and you begin to get down to the basics of real science. I propose an alternate theory. The idea of Tethys Sea may be as absurd as the idea of continental drift. Long ago, all water was fresh water and Earth looked green rather than blue, and the expansion of salt water across the surface of the Earth is a relatively recent phenomenon. Something like this is how the Earth looked long ago. There was no salt water, only land and fresh water. As proof of this theory, I cite 1. The rapid destruction of the Aral Lake shows how quickly freshwater bodies can be destroyed by those who interrupt the water cycle. Number 2. The legend of the Saraswati River lost into the desert and the similar dryness of various modern rivers. Number 3. The fact that the Grand Canyon once had a massive river running through it. Main evidence to support plate tectonics and Pangea theory is the fact that opposing margins of continents appear to fit together in certain ways, but this can also be alternately explained as a result of an erosive, gradually widening salty river. Obviously, the banks of this salty river will have been parallel to each other at every point, and as these salty rivers became pervasive, they became the saltwater oceans. And the remnants of the momentum of these rivers of salt are the ocean currents of today. A glaring weakness in the Pangea and plate tectonics gospel is the idea that total land area and total ocean area have been constant throughout time. But this disagrees with the observation of seawater encroachment, submergence of parts of the land because of rising sea level. Another weakness in the gospel theory is the presence of creatures like sloths, which can swim but are helpless on the land. This suggests that small freshwater bodies and forests went hand in glove in the past, and if you consider the presence of a functional water cycle, it supports the alternate theory. The fatal flaw in the gospel theory is the findings of coal under the seabed, like the 23 trillion tons of coal found buried under the North Sea. In mythology, there's a concept of the male and female waters. Oceanus was believed by the ancients to be the divine personification of the sea, which was seen as an enormous river encircling the world. His consort Tethys was associated with the lakes and rivers, or freshwater. This actually refers to a war between freshwater and saltwater, which results from the quantitative consumption and reproduction style of zombie-form creatures, which seems to cause the production of salt water.
God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land sprout with every sort of plant and tree." And God saw that it was good.
Next we come to 3, Wednesday. Now here comes the apple, Midgard apple, noblest of the apples, who's taught by orange and pear, but often there will be apple error in the third. So who is the third? The fruity disciple in the near to Himalayas region and in the sky region.
Evasive war!
But a lot of apple error is seen. So these 3 are the 3 kings of the elves.
Said it once, said it twice, said it loud, said it quiet, cause it's solid advice. An apple is the type to go mute on the mic and have a cow instead of blowing with it, showing its stripe. I ain't lying here, folks, my exasperation's building every time some apple rolls up in the building. Nope, can't keep a straight face, those little red phonies burning with urges to make pineapple apple pans. Hold me back, here's a greenback, let's see if you can stay stone-faced round this apple, bet you can't. Count your lucky stars that you ain't an apple dude, you're the bomb just as you are, don't let them break you. Don't be a wet blanket, live your life in the sun, cancel out the noise and rock on till you've won. Even one apple a day can be a hazard, hazard, hazard to your health. Get up, get down, get up if getting matter. Seeing red when these white knights ride in to say you should give apples a chance and play nice. I say nay, do the opposite, cause apples are apples. You'll get left-handed holding the bill for the copy after they laugh. What? Right now there's no procedure for an apple that's bad, that can turn an apple golden, delicious and rad. Apples don't fall very far from the tree, take it from me and E.T. Now TNT!
Three Musketeers.
Many seasons passed. The 3 tiny seeds became 3 trees. A strong pine tree standing high on the mountainside. A gnarled oak tree clinging to the shore. And a beautiful olive tree blossoming in the valley.
4. Death. This appears to be Lemon, who's from the Citric dynasty, as Thor of the 4th day of the week, Thursday. He is the consolidating elite of the Citric dynasty. So if there's too much error in the first 3, the corrector was Death. But if reinforcements are needed by the first 3, Death traditionally entered the scene. So that's the origin of the first 4. War or time being the first, famine being the second, as Per could control the agricultural produce of the fertile Indus Valley region, pestilence being the third of the 4 horsemen, and the 4th being death.
Seasons don't fear the reaper, nor do the wind, the sun, or the rain. We can be like they are. Come on, baby, don't feel the reaper. Baby, take my hand, don't feel the reaper. We'll be able to fly.
After many eras of suffering and subjugation, Gaia grew tired of Uranus's tyranny and began to plot a way to overthrow him. She freed her youngest and also the most ambitious son, the Titan Kronos, and begged him to free her from his father's tyranny, assuming the power of reigning over the universe. The ambitious Titan accepted the difficult task imposed by Gaia. To accomplish this mission, his mother handed him a diamond-made scythe. Kronos then departed towards Uranus's heavenly palace. There, he met his father, who was sleeping on a cloud. The Titan readied himself to strike the fatal blow. Kronos hit a proper strike right in the testicles of the god of the sky. This yelled a painful shriek, unlike anything ever heard in the history of the universe. Uranus fell on top of a cloud, and his blood painted the sky scarlet red. Kronos triumphantly returned, eagerly to tell his mother about his glorious achievement. Gaia was radiant and very proud of her son. As he had been promised, Kronos became the lord of the whole universe.
The creatures who lived around the lemons seem to have had a rallying war cry, which reminds one of Tolkien's concept of the song of the creator, Eru Ilúvatar, and reminds one of the Was Up episode of Annoying Orange.
Hey! Hey, Banana!
Yo, what's up?
Hey, Banana, what you doing?
Just hanging around with my bud.
True. What's up?
What's up?
Whoa, who's that?
Yo, that's Lemon.
What's up? Yo, where's Kiwi?
Hey, Kiwi! Yo!
What's up? You guys wait for me! Whoa, hold on!
What's up?
Whoa.
Whenever apple error goes too high, Lemon et al. Would come in to correct the situation.
Dawn came, and Kronos is visited by his father Spectrum, who told him,
"You are an infamous offspring, which stained your hands with the blood of your own father. And just like you assert the supreme power, you will lose it one day."
On the fourth day, God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night." God made two great lights, the sun for the day and the moon for the night. He also made the stars. God set these lights in the sky to light the earth, and God saw that it was good.
It was first heard in 1997 when it was picked up on hydrophones across the Pacific, and whatever it was very, very loud. The underwater microphones that picked it up were around 3,000 miles away and still managed to detect it. Most versions on the internet have been speeded up by 16 times so that the bloop can be heard easier, but the original version I find far more eerie and mysterious. Let's take a listen. Shortly after this recording, the sound was pinpointed by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration It was located around 650 miles off the South American coast in a remote corner of the Pacific Ocean. Fans of fictional tales went wild because it's around here that the legendary Cthulhu creature written by H.P. Lovecraft in 1928 was alleged to have lived.
east, Mr. Face, you the west, Mr. Glove, the south, Mr. Shade, the north.
You opened a door you don't know how to close. Incredible.
There is no doubt that life on Earth would be drastically different without the moon. In terms of human beings, life might not even be possible. The moon stabilizes the oceans and polar regions of the planet, which then creates the seasons that allow for most areas of the planet to thrive and life to prosper. However, many ancient writings appear to document a time before a moon existed in our skies. So as unlikely, crazy, and no doubt outright stupid as it might be to some, is it possible that the moon is an artificial structure purposely designed to exact specifications and put in an exact and calculated orbit to stabilize conditions on Earth?
Can you imagine putting something the size of the moon in orbit? I don't think so. It has a bigger story.
Whoever might be behind such an act would need advanced technology, surely beyond anything we are aware of, and advanced knowledge. For the sake of argument, if the moon was brought here with a purposeful intent, who was behind such a monumental feat? An unknown, lost civilization so much more advanced than we currently are today? If so, where did they go? And if not them, who? 9. Alex Collier's Letters from Andromeda. In his controversial and widely ridiculed book, Letters from Andromeda, author and researcher Alex Collier claimed to have uncovered a real history of the moon. Perhaps the way he sourced his information made people a little suspicious. He had received telepathic communications from an alien who resided in the Zenitae constellation, and these are the tamer parts of his claims. According to Collier, the moon was actually a huge spaceship that arrived here millions of years ago carrying reptilians, human-reptilian hybrids, and the first humans to set foot on Earth. Collier said that the moon was hollow and there were several secret entrances around the surface. He also confirmed that a metal shell existed below the surface. Even more outlandish, he claimed that there were remains of ancient alien bases on and inside the moon, left over from a huge war that was fought 113,000 years ago. These bases were now occupied by a secret world government that was working alongside the extraterrestrial race. 8. The moon's craters are strange. The moon is littered with craters from multiple impacts over the many years of its existence. To some, it is strange how uniform these craters look in terms of their depth. Accepted knowledge should tell us that they vary greatly in depth, yet they don't. Just another anomaly of space? Most likely, but to some, it is a little more. Those who contend that the moon is artificial or hollow point to these craters as being further proof of their stories. One such belief suggests that an inner casing of sorts exists under the rocky lunar surface. The theorists assert that this casing would have to consist of some kind of metallic material, capable of both absorbing the impacts and evenly distributing them so as to avoid any deep craters. According to some, this casing also prevents damage to what might lie beneath it. 7. The unique moon's rotation. We have all heard of the dark side of the moon, the part of our celestial neighbor that we never see. Many people think that this is because the moon doesn't spin. However, it is more accurate to call this part of the moon the far side, as the moon does indeed spin. It takes the moon 27.3 days to orbit Earth once. At the same time, it also takes the moon 27 days to do a complete rotation on its own axis. This synchronous rotation causes a side of the moon to always face away from our planet. Again, our moon appears to be unique in this. From the perspective of the dark side of the moon conspiracy theorists, the end result is still the same. A side of the moon is permanently away from the viewing eyes on our planet, which makes it an ideal place to establish a base and carry out secret activity with advanced technology. 6. Artificial structures on moon. NASA says that artificial structures on the moon are optical illusions in most cases and the result of blurry images in other instances. However, eagle-eyed UFO enthusiasts state that these images are undeniable proof of alien or artificial structures on the moon. A quick internet search on this subject will bring back a plethora of images, and some of them are quite convincing. But there is little, if any, solid proof to back up some of these alleged finds. The pictures are still worth looking at, though. One such anomaly goes by the name of the Shard and can be found in NASA image LO384M. it appears to show an artificial structure towering above the surface. The fact that it also appears to project a shadow leads many UFO researchers to reject the optical illusion suggestion. 5. It's hollow. Carl Sagan stated in his 1966 book, Intelligent Life in the Universe, that a natural satellite, which accepted thinking says the moon is, can't be hollow. So it shocked scientists greatly when the seismic equipment on the moon registered substantial reverberations on November 20, 1969, after the intentional jettisoning of the Apollo 12 lunar module's ascent stage back to the surface. Not only did the moon reverberate like a bell, it did so for over an hour.
And we'll measure how it vibrates, and that'll tell us what's going on in the center of the moon.
If the data was to be believed, it suggests that the moon is hollow. During the following mission, a great payload was jettisoned and the reverberation was measured again. This time, the effect was even greater, with the ringing continuing for well over 3 hours. Despite the suggestions that the moon might indeed be hollow, based upon NASA's own experiments, the findings were largely downplayed by NASA in the years afterward. At least to the public's knowledge, this has not been studied further. 4. Moon's dimensions and positioning are too perfect. Over the last few years, there have been several total eclipses of the sun by the moon. The fact that we experience these is a wonder in itself. According to our sources, our moon is the only known moon to do this with its host. However, some will argue, vociferously we might add, that Earth is the only solid planet from which you can see a total solar eclipse. For Earth, it all has to do with the relative sizes of the Sun, the Moon, and the Earth's distance from both. The size of the Moon is about 1/4 that of the Earth. Now here is where things get strange. The diameter of the Moon is about 400 times smaller than that of the Sun, but the Moon is also 400 times closer to the Earth than the Sun. Oh yes, and the Moon just happens to keep a perfect circular orbit around the Earth. Again, the only known moon to do so. This also gives us the impression that the Moon and the Sun are the same size in our skies. While most likely coincidence, all these factors still have only an astronomical chance of occurring, literally millions to one. Yes, they did. Of course, those in conspiracy and UFO circles will tell you that the reason for this is simple. The moon is artificial, and its dimensions, exact and precise as they are the result of intelligence and planning. Make of the claims what you will. 3. Moon is a result of alien intelligence. Okay, some of you will be a step ahead here, so with that in mind, let's get to the point on this one. Aliens. If an unknown ancient and indigenous civilization was not behind the purposeful placement of the moon, then the only logical choice would be to suggest that an extraterrestrial race might be responsible. But researcher and controversial author David Icke maintains that the moon is an artificial satellite that projects signals from Saturn to our planet, creating the matrix that makes up our reality. Admit it, that makes the secret bases on the moon sound reasonable, right? More than anything else, you would have to ask, why would an alien race be so concerned about the placement of a moon around an alien world like Earth? 2. Ancient texts speak of a time before the moon. Many ancient writings speak of a time before the moon. In turn, many scholars have quoted these works over the centuries. For example, Aristotle wrote of Arcadia, stating that the land was occupied before there was a moon in the sky above the earth. Similarly, Apollonius of Rhodes spoke of a time when not all the orbs were yet in the heavens. The tribe of Chibchas in Colombia also has such notions in their traditional oral legends. They state, in the earliest times, when the moon was not yet in the heavens. The wording sounds remarkably similar to that of Apollonius. Perhaps also of interest, particularly given the bizarre claims of the moon being put into position around the Earth, are some Zulu legends which say that the moon was dragged across space from a great distance. Most of these accounts also speak of intense disruption to the planet until the new heavenly body settled into its true orbit. 1. Operational bases. Alex Collier is certainly not the only person to claim that bases exist on the moon. There has been a wave of such declarations, often connected to anonymous whistleblowers and leaked secret documents over the last 2 decades alone. A recent claim about the presence of an operational moon base was made by Dr. Michael Sala, who works with the Chinese Space Agency in their attempts to achieve a manned mission to the moon. If successful, this will be the first such landing since NASA's Apollo 17 in 1972. Sala also says that the base was the result of the military-industrial extraterrestrial complex. Even more outlandish were his comments that NASA were actively bombing such bases as well as ancient artifacts and facilities to cover up their existence. Furthermore, he had stated that secret mining missions were being carried out by a secret world government that had made a covert pact with an unknown extraterrestrial race. Like any such claims, make of them what you will.
Trouble so hard, ooh Lord, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Ooh Lord, my trouble so hard, ooh Lord, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Went down the hill the other day, so got happy and stayed all day. Went down the hill the other day, so got happy and stayed all day. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Went in the room, didn't stay long. Looked over there and brother was dead. Went in the room, didn't stay long. Looked over there and brother was dead. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble
On the fifth day, God said, "Let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with birds of every kind." And God saw that it was good.
Let's come to the fifth. Friday. Freya. This must be passion. There was a contemporary of Charles Darwin called Mackay who came up with the short-lived Quinnerian system of classification. According to his reasoning, each major group of animals could be further subdivided into 5 subgroups. We also see the 5 groups of monotremes, mammals which lay eggs such as platypus. We also see 5 types of giant sloths which survived into relatively recent times. Or Draupadi of Indian myth who has 5 lovers. She becomes the elder sister of the 4 horsemen. Thus, it's not surprising that we find stories of Thor being successfully challenged by the 5-pronged power.
Are you talking to me? Hello, my orange friend.
Hey, Apple, how'd you get so skinny?
Hey, he's not an apple. Yeah, shut up, Orange.
It's okay. Go on, Chili Gordo. You called Apple Gordo.
Yes, she did. You see, Orange, I have many names.
Like Apple.
No, I am not an apple. My name is Jalapeno.
So cute. So hot.
Hey, Gordo.
Yes, my orange friend.
I thought you were hot.
I am.
So why do they call you Chili? Jeez, talk about a bowl movement.
Mr. Jalapeno, I have this friend, and she was wondering if you'd ever be interested in a peach.
Interested? No. I would be more than interested. And please, tell your friend she looks quite lovely today.
Now, according to Hindu mythology, Brahma used to hold the office of 5, but he was apparently abusing this power, so Shiva helped a female to come to this office. So ultimately, this office, the 5th, could only be held by a female because it has so much power, males can't be trusted with that power. That's why passion arose over here.
In Old Norse, Jormungandr meant great beast, and he was commonly referred to as the Midgard serpent because his body was so big that it could encircle the entire of Midgard. Jormungandr was particularly hated by the god Thor, and there are numerous tales of altercations between the two. The hatred began when Thor and a company of other gods visited the land of the giants, where they came across a huge castle. Upon hearing that he had guests, the king of the castle told the gods that if they expected his hospitality, they would first have to perform a series of feats to impress him. Thor was given the very simple task of lifting the king's pet cat from the ground, a task that was considered so mundane that even the children of the castle could do it. Despite his immense strength, Thor could not complete this task, only managing to lift one of the cat's paws above the ground. Thor was furious and demanded to fight one of the king's fiercest warriors. The king laughed and mocked Thor, telling him the only opponent that would be a fair fight would be the nurse of the castle. Thor begrudgingly accepted the challenge and began to wrestle with the elderly woman, but even in this task he would fail. The next morning when leaving the castle, the king confessed the truth to Thor and the rest of the gods. The tasks that he had given them were more than they appeared. The gods of Asgard had been tricked by powerful enchantment and magic. The king's pet cat that Thor had been asked to lift was in fact Jormungandr in disguise, and Thor had nearly pulled the great serpent from the ocean bed that he had been exiled to. The old woman who bested Thor was in fact old age, a feat that no one could conquer. After hearing the truth, Thor turned and swung his hammer at the king, but he vanished along with the castle. From that day on, Thor swore revenge on the king and Jormungandr, but he had no idea where to find either of them. There are those who believe that the giant king was in fact Loki in disguise, attempting to unleash his son Jormungandr upon the world. After all, Loki was a renowned trickster, and a spell that strong that it could fool the gods so easily would require the talents of someone as powerful as Loki. It wasn't until Thor stumbled across a giant named Hymir, who agreed to take him fishing, that Thor would stumble across Jormungandr once again. Thor had thrown a great hook attached to a strong line over the side of the boat, in the hopes that the bait would attract the attention of Jormungand, and that it did. Upon seeing the monstrous serpent, Thor tugged on the line, bringing Jormungand to the surface, and a fierce battle between the two commenced. The giant was so terrified by Jormungand and the rapidly sinking boat that he cut the line, returning the serpent to the deep. Thor was so incensed by Hymir's actions that he swung his hammer with such force, the giant fell overboard and drowned. Jormungand was so terrified after his close encounter with the god that he went into hiding and was rarely seen by humans. He was prophesied to bring about the end of the world.
Good. That is damn good. Very good. See? Charlie? That's what you get. Echo, there you go. Delta. Blue? This one's for you.
Truth, where we shall be judged.
Step forward. What do you offer? Step forward.
I shall live forever!
What do you offer? Step forward. What do you offer? What do you offer?
With every good thing that Osiris and his wife did for the people of the world, Set became more and more envious. The more people loved the God King and his wife, the more Set wanted to destroy them and to take the place of his brother on the throne. Osiris had gone on a long trip to other nations to spread the knowledge of civilization to other people. Isis ruled while he was away. When the king returned, Set was among the first to welcome his brother back. But the younger, jealous god had conspired with 72 of his wicked friends to defeat Osiris. Set had obtained the exact dimensions of his older brother and had commissioned the construction of an elaborate box to be made of cedar and ebony, plus gold and ivory. In celebration of his brother's return, Set threw the richest possible feast and invited his most loyal friends. After Osiris had grown relaxed and happy with song, food, and wine, Set brought out the elegant chest he had commissioned. He announced to the crowd that he would give this fine box to whoever would fit inside the chest perfectly. Several of the guests tried to fit within the finely made chest, but some were too short, too tall, too fat, or too thin. Finally, Osiris asked if he could try out the box. As the king hunkered down into the box, all of the guests gathered around in anticipation. Osiris cried out that the fit was snug. "The chest is mine!" Set hissed with glee. "Yes, my brother, and it will be yours forever." With that, Set slammed the lid down, and as many guests as could reach the box helped to nail the lid shut. They sealed every crack with molten lead and tossed the chest into the Nile.
Now 6 with the Saturday seems to be marshmallow, so this was the rice of the god named Shiva.
On the 6th day, God said, "Let the earth make every sort of animal." God made all sorts of wild animals, livestock and small animals, each able to have babies of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, to be like us." So God created man in his own image. He formed man from the dust of the ground. He breathed the breath of life into man, and a man became alive.
About 6, we see the 6 butterflies of TNT in an annoying orange episode.
What exactly are the Infinity Stones? Welcome to the Final Frontier. Here is everything you need to know about Marvel's Infinity Stones. You may have heard of the different phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Phase 1 introduced the main universe and assembled many of the core members of the Avengers, as well as introduced organizations such as S.H.I.E.L.D. Phase 2 focused on the exploits of the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. following the Battle of New York, and revealed the infiltration of S.H.I.E.L.D. by the evil Hydra group, which ultimately resulted in the creation of Ultron, an artificial intelligence who wanted to destroy the Earth. Phase 3 occurs in the aftermath of Ultron's failed attempt to wipe out humanity when the Avengers have become divided, and will eventually deal with the threat of Thanos, an incredibly powerful warlord who rules over a distant region of space. The Infinity Stones are 6 stones or gems that were created by the cosmic entities Death, Entropy, Infinity, and Eternity. It was in Guardians of the Galaxy that the Collector explained the nature of the stones.
Before creation itself, there were 6 singularities. Then the universe exploded into existence, and the remnants of these systems were forged into concentrated ingots. Infinity Stones.
They are the greatest power in the universe.
These stones, it seems, can only be brandished by beings of extraordinary strength. These carriers can use the stone to mow down entire civilizations like wheat in a field.
There are 6 stones in total, each representing a different aspect of the universe: space, mind, reality, power, time, and soul. Of these 6, we have now seen 5 stones in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Space Stone was contained in the Tesseract, an artifact we first saw stolen from a church in Tønsberg, the oldest town in Norway, by Adolf Hitler's right-hand man Johann Schmidt, aka the Red Skull, during World War II. He used it to power an advanced superbomber designed to drop atomic bombs in US cities. Captain America foiled his plans, and upon touching the Tesseract, the Red Skull disappeared through a portal across space. The Tesseract fell into the sea and was later recovered by Howard Stark of Stark Industries. 70 years later, Loki agreed to retrieve the Tesseract for Thanos, in exchange for the use of Thanos' army, the Chitauri. The Tesseract was used to create a portal above New York City, allowing Loki's army to attack Earth. Fortunately, the Avengers managed to close the portal and foil the attack. The Tesseract was then taken to Asgard, where it is now protected by Heimdall. As well as allowing Loki to use his army in the failed attempt to capture Earth, Thanos also gave Loki a scepter containing the Mind Stone. This scepter allowed Loki to control any person who came into contact with it. Following the Battle of New York, the scepter was stolen from S.H.I.E.L.D. by a sleeper Hydra agent and used for human experimentation in a secret research base in Sokovia, which resulted in the creation of Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. The scepter was recovered by the Avengers, and Tony Stark, with the help of Bruce Banner, used it to bring life to Ultron, an artificial intelligence designed to protect the Earth. Only Ultron turned against humanity, and with the help of Loki's scepter created Vision, a powerful synthetic being with a vibranium-laced body, into which he planned to upload his mind. However, the Avengers managed to stop Ultron. Instead, Tony Stark and Bruce Banner uploaded the Jarvis AI into his body. With help from Thor's hammer, Vision was born with the Mind Stone embedded at the center of his forehead. Vision used the Mind Stone to destroy Ultron with an energy beam at the Battle of Sokovia, before formally joining the Avengers. During the Convergence, a cosmic event occurring approximately every 5,000 years that brings together all of the 9 realms in alignment, the astrophysicist Dr. Jane Foster became infected with the Ether, a dark red viscous liquid that contains the Reality Stone. Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, an ancient race of beings who had previously tried and failed to use the Ether in a battle against the Asgardians, was alerted to the presence of the Ether and reclaimed it. He then took the Ether to Earth in an attempt to infect the 9 realms with eternal darkness. Fortunately, Malekith was destroyed by Thor and his team before he could complete his plans, and the Ether was retaken by Asgard. As it was too dangerous to keep 2 Infinity Stones so close together, the Ether was handed over to the Collector for safekeeping. On the planet Morag, hidden in an ancient temple accessible only every 300 years, was the Orb, an artifact containing the Power Stone. It was found by
Star-Lord. Who
who immediately found himself being hunted by a number of foes, including Gamora and Ronan the Accuser, who were sent by Thanos himself. Captured by the Novacorps, Star-Lord and Gamora joined forces and, along with Rocket Raccoon, Groot and Drax the Destroyer, escaped their prison and recaptured the orb, which they planned to sell to the Collector.
Hey, that's mine! Give it back!
No way! It's my whistling pinwheel!
You're an apple.
What's that, Orange? I can't hear you.
Whoa, what's going on? Wow, what the? Orange! Oh, thank God I found you! Who are you? Orange, I'm you! From the year 2053! What? I'm from the future! Okay, wait, so you're me? Yeah. And you're from the future? Yes. Prove it. Orange, we don't have time. I have to warn you that— Nope, not listening till you prove it. So, the lightning and me appearing out of nowhere, that doesn't count for anything? Could have been smoke and mirrors. Well, I have my official 2053 driver's license with me. That could be fake. Not convinced. I've got this futuristic laser gun.
Whoa, poor Steve.
Now are you convinced? Nope. Lame. Well, the only other thing I have with me is this glow stick. What? A stick that glows? You really are from the future. That's what I've been trying to say. Can I have a glow stick? No, there's no time. I'll trade you my new iPhone 4 for it. Why would I want that? I have an iPhone 512. How about my golf clubs? No, I'll trade you pear for it.
Hey.
No one's trading pear for it. Just listen to me. Fine. Orange, I was sent here to protect you. Protect me? From who? From an evil future space warlord that can move things with his mind. If he kills you, then I'll never exist.
Wait, why won't you exist?
Because I'm him. I'm an orange. And I'm you. From the future.
So why does he want to kill you?
You mean me? Because I'm the only one that can stop him. But I need your help. How's that? You're in possession of the most powerful weapon known to man. Or fruit. Is it me? No, it's not you. Oh, it's the whistling pinwheel.
What?
It's the only device that can stop him. You don't know it yet, but when used correctly, it can destroy anything. I'll trade you for the glow stick. Deal.
No way, the pinwheel's mine.
Darn it, Pear, there's no time. Yeah, hand it over, Pear.
Nope, can't hear ya.
Come on, give it back. What are you doing? What are you doing? You gotta give it to us. Give it over. You give it to us. We're over to us. He's coming. Oh my God, he's coming. Oh my God, what are you doing? There he is. He's coming directly. He's coming. Hey. No, he's got the pinwheel. No.
Whoa!
Ow.
Who are you? Why'd you kill Future Orange?
Hey, it's me. You're an orange. And you're an orange.
And I'm confused.
I was sent here from the future to protect you from an evil space warlord. That's what the last guy said. Well, duh. He was from an evil future. He was trying to trick you into thinking that I was the space warlord, when it was really him. Wow. I'm really beside myself.
Oh, God.
Unfortunately, the Collector's assistant tried to grab the orb and ended up destroying the Collector's museum. The orb was then captured by Ronan the Accuser, who decided to keep it for himself and destroy the planet Xandar. However, during the Battle of Xandar, Ronan was destroyed and Star-Lord handed over the orb to the Novacorps for safekeeping. The Eye of Agamotto, within which resides the Time Stone, is stored in Kamataj, Nepal, where Doctor Strange began investigating its powers to manipulate time. He eventually used the stone to defeat Dormammu, a powerful malevolent primordial entity who ruled another universe known as the Dark Dimension, and, surprise surprise, wanted to take over this universe. Having used the stone's power, Strange left the eye in Kamataj. The Soul Stone has yet to be seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but we do have a clue about where and when we may expect to see it. There are two theories on what the H could be. Some suggest that Heimdall could be the bearer of the Soul Stone, as he can see all the souls in the 9 realms. However, it could also be that the stone resides with Hela, the goddess of the spirits of the death, who is expected to play a key role in Thor Ragnarok, which happens to be the final movie before Avengers Infinity War. Only beings of immense power can wield the Infinity Stones, although it is possible to house them in containers to avoid direct contact. The Infinity Gauntlets are used to channel the power of the Infinity Stones. The right-handed set lies in Odin's vault in Asgard, whereas the left-handed one just happens to be in the possession of Thanos himself.
In our
already by the animal skins and sloping foreheads. We're cavemen. Most days we spend in our cave. In the dark.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6.
Do these names mean anything to you?
Get home with the portal closed? I'm sure when the blue moon rises tonight, the portal will open again. Now, let's take shelter till dark.
Hey, let's get smuffing. Okay, but I'm not happy.
Take that!
On the 6th day of creation, God formed man from the dust of the earth.
He breathed the breath of life into his nostrils, and the man became a living person. God planted a garden in Eden and placed the man there. God ordered beautiful trees and trees that bear fruit to grow up from the ground. In the middle of the garden, he placed the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He gave instructions to the man to tend to and watch over the garden. God told the man, "You may freely eat the fruit of every tree in the garden, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat the fruit of this tree, you will surely die." Then God said, "It is not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just right for him." God brought all the animals to the man to be named by the man. The man gave names to all the animals, but still there was no helper just right for him. So God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. While he slept, God took out one of the man's ribs and closed up the opening. Then he made a woman from the rib, and he brought her to the man. "At last," the man exclaimed, "this one is bone from my bone and flesh from my flesh. She will be called woman, because she was taken from man." This explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. Now the man and his wife were both naked, but they felt no shame. One day, the serpent, the most clever of all the wild animals, asked the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat the fruit from any of the trees in the garden?" "Of course we may," the woman replied. "It's only the fruit from the tree in the middle of the garden that we are not allowed to eat. God said, you must not eat it or even touch it. If you do, you will die." "You will not die," the serpent exclaimed. "God knows that your eyes will be opened as soon as you eat it, and you will be like God, knowing both good and evil." When the serpent was done speaking, the woman did eat the forbidden fruit and shared it with her husband. At that moment their eyes were opened. They felt shame by their nakedness, so they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. That evening they heard God walking about in the garden, so they hid. God called to the man, "Where are you?" The man replied, "I hid from you because I was naked." "Who told you that you were naked?" God asked. "Have you eaten from the tree whose fruit I commanded you not to eat?" The man replied, "The woman gave it to me." Then God asked the woman, "What have you done?" "The serpent tricked me," she replied. Then God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all animals. You will crawl on your belly as long as you live. I will put hatred and division between you and the woman. He will crush your head, and you will bruise his heel." God then said to the woman, "I will sharpen the pain of childbirth, and your husband will rule over you." To the man he said, "Since you listened to your wife and ate from the tree, the ground is cursed because of you. All of your life you will work hard to grow your own food until you die. You were made from dust, and you will return to dust." Adam then named his wife Eve, and God made clothing from animal skins to cover their nakedness. God banished them from the Garden of Eden, and he sent Adam out to cultivate the ground from which he had been made.
It seems fate has drawn us together once again, James Raynor.
I'd call it luck.
Luck is a concept that is purely human in origin. We Protoss see the synchronicity of events and know there is a grander design behind them.
It don't matter how you see it. The result's the same.
I must remind you, our sacred law, the Deul, clearly forbids us to interfere with lesser beings, unless there is a direct threat to the Empire. Your choice to aid these Terrans is perplexing.
Why do you assume that they are lesser beings, Rohana?
I do not make an assumption. Gaze upon them. Unsophisticated, primitive. They communicate through orifices, mouths.
Many, including myself, once thought as you do. But I have seen their nobility. In time, you will also.
The 7 of the Sunday. Now this is one of the most interesting, and the final day of the week is linked to grapefruit, the sun god, the 7th of the 7 of annoying orange, a very famous character, as we see here. Also seems to contribute a bit to the mango error component. Now there's an ancient story of the rivalry between the sun god and the rain god. Well, there are so many stories about grapefruit.
Kalimavala Thausar Poik, Moringothon, Elda Armaya, Ar Apanona, Endores se Atansin Unona, Ilarfanie, Ilarmelle, Ilarmalcas Sanne, Osta Ilar Haru, Lau Ambartana, So Thauruva Feanarolo, Ar Feanaro Nossello.
Cavalier Louis states that he was taken in to the side of Elora, where he was led through a secret passageway into an underground chamber. The underground chamber opened up into a huge amphitheater, and there were these wondrous metallic thrones that were being charged with powerful galvanic batteries that rose up into the air. And seated on these thrones were 7 mysterious, hooded figures.
merry band we are. Me a gray, Chisholm a blue, Billy a mysterious man of the Orient, a drunk Irishman, a Texican, a female and her gentleman caller. This is not going to end well.
The 7 dwarf rings were the rings of power, given to 7 dwarf lords by Sauron in the guise of Anatar. Apparently, the lords were the kings of the 7 houses, as Gandalf mentions that the rings were given to the dwarf kings. Celebrimbor was said to have yielded the 7, all the 7, to Sauron after torture. Sauron tried to gather the rings back to him. He succeeded in finding 2, while 4 others were swallowed or destroyed by dragons. The 3rd ring Sauron obtained was taken from Thrain II in the 3rd Age.
Your journey has just begun.
It's yours now.
Many of us will stand with you, but now is not the time.
I looked up to you. Of course you did. That would be unwise. Is it true you still never miss? Doesn't that get dull? I thought your sight was perfect. You fight well. Are you so sure you're his son?
You are the 7th son of the 7th son.
An order of noble knights combating the forces of darkness.
You live in a world now where legend and nightmare are real.
What the hell is that?
The devil is upon us. The sounds of evil are everywhere.
Your queen has returned. The world of man shall fall.
You see a witch, kill it.
We're not all evil, you know.
I'm not like you.
Join us.
But the most interesting one was the one in the center, who spoke and yet was not always there. His body shimmered in and out of physical space and time.
Here they stand, brothers them all the sons, they bang and they fall. Here awaits the birth of the sun, the seventh, the heavenly, the chosen one.
One, two, three, four, five, 6, and 7. And a half. And 8.
Got room for one more?
I ain't too anxious to be handing out rides.
Real trusting fella, huh?
Not so much. Ain't no way I'm spending a couple of nights under a roof with somebody I don't know who they are. So who are you?
Nine leaders of men were chosen, and at first the rings gave them great power and wealth, extending their lives and making them powerful sorcerers. But eventually the rings took their minds and they became the ring wraiths, called the Nazgûl, turned permanently invisible and made completely obedient to Sauron's will.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And a half. And 8. 9.
Because Hera is hostile to all children of her husband by mortal mothers, she decides to be revenged upon the child. She sends 2 snakes to kill Hercules in his crib. But the infant strangles the serpents with ease. When Hercules grew up and had become a great warrior, he married Megara. They had 2 children. However, Hera causes Hercules to go insane with rage. In his insanity, Hercules murdered his family. Seeking redemption, Hercules performed 12 labors given to him by King Eurystheus of Tiryns.
12 men turned into 12 clawing animals.
The flag of Europe, or also known as the European flag, consists of a circle of 12 golden or yellow stars on a blue azure background.
Jacob is the father of the patriarchs of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Jude, Thomas, Matthew, James the Less, Simon, Judas Iscariot, and Peter.
The army of the 12 monkeys, they're the ones that spread the virus.
Monkeys?
It is our capacity for individuality, our souls, that makes us different from them. They think they can find the human soul if they understand how our memories work. All they have are collective memories. They share one group mind. They're dying, you see. Their entire race is on the brink of extinction. They think we can save them.
compounded. I have time, all the time I need to put an end to you. Come to find me, to destroy the monster. I am real.
First, there was darkness. Then came the strangers.
Fell asleep and felt like something was being put on my head. I woke up and saw two individuals at the foot of my bed. One said,
"Listen, K-Reno, you've been chosen to fight the deadly force that germinated and rose in the night. All the knowledge that you'll need I'll expose on this flight.
What's up with this paralysis?
You're frozen in light.
Where can you unfreeze me? And please be quick about telling me the reason why you come to seize me," he said.
I'm sure you've heard of the machine, where we've convened concerning its destruction, and we've chosen you to lead the team. Folks are going to die, you have no choice, so you better comply.
I said, I was no one special, I'm just a regular guy. He said,
that's a lie, you were born for this, never deny.
I looked in his eyes and said, okay man, whatever, I'll try. 2 seconds later, I went from my room to on the craft. Inside the lab where I received training to run the staff.
For a time, it was good. The machines worked tirelessly to do man's bidding.
Struck by a smooth criminal.
Vessel. This is Commander James Rayner. Artanis? There. Ain't you a sight for sore eyes?
Friend Rayner, you seem rather occupied.
Just another day at the office.
Who are these insurgents?
Call themselves Mobius Corps, an elite guard that used to work for Dr. Narud. They've been striking worlds throughout the sector, leaving few survivors. Each world attacked reported hybridly.
Then truly, no world is beyond Amon's reach.
Androids and liberal sympathizers flooded the streets of the nation's capital today in protest of the Senate.
Domestic mechanicals and their human sympathizers have continued their demonstration in front of the Albany District Courthouse in what has now been dubbed the Million Machine March. The demonstrators have been met with squads of civil defense forces riot gear.
This will teach you
This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10. Feel the earth move and then hear my heart burst again. For this is the end. I've drowned and drift this moment, so overdue I owe them. Swept away, I'm stolen. Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall and face it all together. Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall and face it all together as sky falls. That sky falls. Skyfall is where we start. 1,000 miles and poles apart, where worlds collide and days are dark.
So the leaders of men conceived of their most desperate strategy yet. A final solution.
Our confidence is high that dark
The destruction of the sky.
They've overrun Sky Shield, our orbital defense platform. Looks like they've destroyed its atmospheric stabilizers. It's falling fast. If it crashes, it'll obliterate August Grad.
We will ensure that does not happen, Commander. Engage their fleet and keep their assault at bay.
Like old times, buddy. Like old times. Sky Shield's in serious trouble, old buddy. If we can't bring it back online, August Grad's gonna take a nuclear-sized impact. Mobius Corps soldiers are on the platform now, and those guys are suicidal. Rather die than let us stop them. This ain't good. Sky Shield's not gonna last much longer. At this rate, we've got maybe 10 minutes left till it lands smack dab on our capital.
Your suspicions were correct, Commander. Mobius Corps is disabling the platform's atmospheric stabilizers as we speak. The damage appears repairable, Hierarch.
Yeah, assuming Mobius Corps leaves anything left to repair. Artanis, if you can clear out those troops, my boys can patch up those stabilizers. That should buy us some extra time.
We must move quickly. It will take the combined power of all 5 stabilizers to halt the platform's descent.
great power, unchecked, threaten the very fabric of the universe. In time, heaven and hell came to honor the council and its laws, for none were beyond the swift and terrible justice of the council's enforcers, a fearsome brotherhood known as the Four Horsemen. Amid the turmoil, the first humans emerged. The council foretold that these weak but cunning creatures would someday be integral to the balance. Thus, a third kingdom was named, the Kingdom of Man. By order of the council, a truce was forged between heaven and hell. The great pact was bound by 7 seals, to be broken at the appointed time, when man's kingdom stood ready for the end war, a battle that would bring balance and determine the ultimate fate of the 3 kingdoms.
Prophecy was written in the pages of old. What will these words reveal? Locked away and hidden until the end of time. The only way to open is to break all the seals. Revelation tells us we not behold, for the Lion of Judah prevails. Christ wins the fight with Satan the devil.
The ill-fated Hindenburg on her last flight sails over New York. These pictures, made from a Pathé News plane less than 4 hours before the tragedy, show the world's largest airship heading for Lakehurst, New Jersey. Over Newark's famous auto skyway, the airship was hailed by thousands who little dreamed it was their final glimpse of the Hindenburg. Inside the silver envelope are 16 separate gas bags, each filled with hydrogen, a highly inflammable gas. From the ground, you can see the forward control cabin from which the ship is operated. The windows along the side indicate the location of the passengers' quarters, in which many were carried to a flaming death. Approaching Lakehurst, the Hindenburg appeared a conquering giant of the skies, but she proved a puny plaything in the mighty grip of fate. It almost seemed as if fate had set the stage for the horrible tragedy. A graceful craft sailing serenely to her doom. For 3 hours, the dirigible circled the landing field at Lakehurst, New Jersey, dumping more water ballast than ever before in vain efforts to level off. Again she dumps ballast, and a nervous tension grips those who are watching, for this is something unusual. There goes more ballast, but the tale is settling in spite of all that has been dumped. A grim note of impending tragedy.
Well, here it comes, ladies and gentlemen. We're out now outside of the hangar, and what a great sight it is. A thrilling one. It's a marvelous sight. It's coming down out of the sky, pointed directly towards us and toward the mooring mast. It's practically standing still now. They've dropped ropes out of the nose of the ship, and it's been taken a hold of down on the field by a number of men. It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from... It bursts into flames. Get it started, get it started. It's crashing terrible. Oh, my, get out of the way, please. It's bursting into flames and is falling on the mooring mast and all the folks between it. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world.
The German tank is hit squarely, and as the gunner tries to escape, the second shell cuts off his leg. The driver and assistant clamber to escape as another shell is fired. Burning alive, the gunner lies over the edge of his coffin on wheels while his companions run for cover. And the concussion from the 90mm gun is so great, camera steadiness is impossible.
Captain, I'm tracking the Dominion flagship NORAD-3 in low orbit. Emperor Minsk may be attempting an escape. Receiving incoming transmission.
This is Emperor Minsk of the Terran Dominion. I wish to parley with your executive officer at once.
So, the elusive Arcturus Mengsk at last. I was hoping to speak with you before we finished our business here. I am Admiral Gerard Dugas, and I must commend you, sir, for holding back our advance for as long as you have. You are indeed a worthy opponent.
My thanks to you, sir. But you must know that your victory here means little to me. It might have taken me a while, but I did overthrow the Confederacy. I'll overthrow your rule as well.
That seems unlikely, sir. Seeing as how you'll be publicly executed along with the rest of your ranking officers.
You wouldn't dare.
The man who crowns himself emperor speaks to me of daring. You have far outlived your reputation, citizen Mengsk. Captain, prepare to take the emperor into custody.
You'll have to postpone those plans, gentlemen.
Sir, the rebel command ship Hyperion has just entered our sensor range. It is accompanied by a small Protoss fleet.
What? Who are these intruders?
Jim Raynor. What the hell are you doing here?
I'm pulling your ass out of the fire, Arcturus, so shut up and sit tight. Make no mistake about it, we've got us a serious score to settle. But right now, a mutual acquaintance of ours wants you alive. Prepare your ships for dimensional recall.
This is intolerable. They're escaping right out from under us. Track them! Track them!
For you.
I'm surprised you haven't tried to escape.
Escape? My dear, I'm afraid you've got it all wrong. Really? Did you think I'd keep an animal like you close to me without some kind of insurance policy? Clearly, you are my greatest failure. Now, at long last, you will die. Change of plans.
You can never suffer enough for all the lives you've ruined, Arcturus.
I made you into a monster, Kerrigan.
You made us all into monsters. Thank you, Jim. For everything.
My pleasure, darling. Always was.
I now see my true enemy. He waits for me in the void, wielding powers I cannot imagine. I go to face him, having renounced everything. My humanity, my identity, the man I love. But I will not face this enemy alone. I am the